Hey everybody, welcome to my kanji intro video. So, first of all, you might be asking yourself, why learn kanji in the first place? You might have already learned hiragana or katakana, and then you look at kanji, which is what you see on the screen right now, and you're thinking to yourself, how overwhelming it looks, how many there are. Yeah, there's thousands of them. So basically, if you're serious about learning Japanese and you want to be able to read or write in general, I think it's important to learn kanji. You could get by with just hiragana or katakana if you're just, learning as a hobby maybe, and you just want the most basic form of writing and reading at all. Hiragana might do it for you. But if you're really serious about the language at all, kanji is necessary to read signs, to read books, newspaper articles, website blogs, YouTube comments, whatever it is, kanji is going to be pretty essential. So that's the why. And, there's a lot of kanji out there, but you really only need maybe 2,000 kanji to read most things, and even with the most essential 1,000 kanji, which I'll get into later, you can read probably 90% of written Japanese. So it's really doable, honestly. So first of all, let's get into how kanji works. So on my screen right here, I've got a translation from Google Translation, which I don't recommend Google Translate typically, but it was the easiest way to pull up this sentence for me. So, I like coffee is the sentence right here. And if you know hiragana or katakana at all, you know that most of this is hiragana and katakana. You've got two kanji in this really simple sentence. But I'm going to use it to sort of show how kanji works. Because of course, hiragana and katakana, which are these main characters here. Let me draw on this real quick. Everything except this one and this one is hiragana or katakana. So those are phonetic characters. They each character represents a sound. Now the kanji, on the other hand, kanji can have multiple readings, and each character is going to have a meaning to it. So basically, let me show you what I mean. So this character right here, watashi, which means I, it's just one word that you could use for I. But if you were writing this in hiragana, you would have to write out this. So sometimes, a kanji might be a simpler way of representing something instead of writing out all this. Sometimes that's not the case. But anyway, reading it makes it easier than reading a whole string of hiragana, reading one kanji and just seeing that and knowing that it means I. It makes reading easier and more manageable. So yeah, and some kanji can have multiple readings. So some kanji will be read this way, and then they might have another reading with the same character. So it can kind of get complicated in the reading department, but we're not going to worry about that yet. That comes later. So this would be read like that. And then and for this case, that kanji is complete like that. That's a whole word right there. Now with this kanji, it's sort of the base of the word. But this hiragana right here actually completes that word. So this is one word right here. Ski, which means to like something. So in hiragana, this would be the phonetic of that character. Su is the sound. And then ki is written with this hiragana. So suki, ski. That means to like something. So sometimes the kanji is just the base of that word, and then you're going to use hiragana to sort of conjugate or write the end of that word. It depends on the type of word you have, but that's pretty much how kanji works. Sometimes you will see above the kanji what's called hiragana, which is basically just tiny little hiragana above the character that shows you the reading, if you don't know kanji readings. So yeah, let's talk about how kanji are built first of all. So sometimes there are these things called primitives, which are sort of the building blocks of kanji. Sometimes a primitive can be a kanji in itself. For example, maybe we have the kanji for one, which is just a line. So as a word, that means one. As a primitive, as a sort of building block for stories, this could mean, a ceiling or a floor. Just imagine you're putting other things on that. So now you have like a cross on a floor. Or maybe you have, something under a ceiling, maybe a cross under a ceiling. So now you can start to make stories about these characters with primitives or building blocks. That's the best way to think about kanji. Instead of thinking about them as, individual strokes and all this stuff, which it can start to become, multiple strokes, you'll want to think about kanji as different elements. Look at, this is one thing and this is one thing. You're putting sort of hieroglyphic picture elements together and turning them into a story to remember sort of the meaning or the keyword of that kanji. And that's really the secret to being able to remember multiple kanji every day. And within a couple months you can learn thousands of these. And it's really very doable. And I'm going to show you how later in this video. First, I just want to show you a couple examples of different kanji, some simple ones. And the thing about kanji is they all start to build on each other. So the really complex ones can be broken down into these simpler kanji. That's the thing. So like I showed you earlier, you've got the kanji for one, which is just a simple one stroke. It's an easy one. This is the kanji for 10. And in the very beginning, some of these are just so simple that you just want to remember them as, what they mean just by saying, this means 10. I might not have a reason for why a cross means 10, but you could think of something. And then just like this simple character means sun or day. And the way I remembered this one in the beginning was, you look out your window, which it kind of looks like a window, and you imagine yourself looking out the window to see the sun coming up, and it's the start of a new day. But you're going to see it so often, you're never going to forget that means day or sun. This character here means mouth. Pretty easy to imagine that as a mouth, a square mouth. You've got this one that means 1,000. And then so remember this, I think of this cross here, and then I picture this sort of slanted ceiling, and I think of a cross that is actually touching that slanted ceiling in, say, a cathedral, and I think it's 1,000 years old, that cross. Sometimes there are weird stories you have to come up with, but that kind of helps you remember it even better. So, here you have 1,000. You're going to see that one quite often too. But then there's another character that uses that, and it uses the character for mouth. So you're combining these two elements into one new element. You've got 1,000 and you've got mouth. What does this mean? It actually means tongue. So how do I even remember something like that? Well, I think of thousands of mouths, and they all speak the same tongue. When you think of a language, which might be another word for tongue, you just think of thousands of people speaking from their mouth the same tongue. It might seem like a reach sometimes, but really you can remember these. And sometimes, don't use other people's stories for them. Use whatever makes sense to you. And then this is the character for I. You could just sort of picture like a simplified version of, an anime I. Just think of these lines, as like sort of squared off or whatever. And then another really common character is this. And it actually, the keyword in the kanji book I use is shellfish. So the way I kind of remember this one is, here's the eye, and here are these like legs sticking out of the bottom. So picture this shellfish that has this crazy one big eye, and it's got these little legs below it, kind of like a clam might have these little legs for burying in the sand or something. But just, think of something crazy like that, and that'll help you remember that. So now let me show you how a couple characters can combine to make a one word with multiple kanji. Because, sometimes words aren't just one kanji. Sometimes you combine multiple kanji to create a word. Sort of like, the letter A in English. That is a word in itself. But sometimes you combine letters to make a new word. So if I take the character for sun, and then I take the character for origin, I think it means origin or book, multiple meanings. This is Japan, Nihon. So you've got ni, and then this one is read as hon. So combined, Nihon means Japan. Sometimes the meanings of the characters will make sense, sometimes they won't. For example, sun and origin, you could think of the origin of the sun, the land of the rising sun. It's going to be Japan. Sometimes they're going to easily make sense like that, but not always the case. Okay, so that's kind of it for examples of kanji. They do get a lot more complicated, but again, it's just, you got to think of them as building blocks. So now how I recommend learning kanji is what's called lazy kanji, which is sort of basically it's the most frequent 1000 kanji you're going to see in written Japanese. But before you do any of that, I recommend downloading this program called Anki, which is a flashcard program. It's going to basically be what helps you remember things most efficiently. It's very simple to use. And I also recommend that you buy this book, Remembering the Kanji, by James Heisig. You can find this on Amazon right here. It's honestly very much worth it. It's only like $20. And it's going to show you all the primitives. It's going to show you the stories he introduces for the kanji. Not that you have to use his stories, but I honestly really recommend also using his book in combination with this website right here. Once you go to this website, you can search by keywords, which you can find in his book, or you can click this, which is going to show you in order all of these characters. So if I click on one, you're going to see it's going to show you the order of how to write the kanji. It's going to show you different readings in hiragana and katakana. But what's really important is down here, these stories. These are what you're going to use to remember the characters. Whatever makes the most sense to you. Or you can make your own. These are just, ideas. But yeah, so, once you have that stuff, you're going to go to the MIA website, massimmersionapproach.com, which is my recommendation for how to learn Japanese in general. But yeah, you're going to go to his table of contents on the page, and I think it's under stage 1, lazy kanji down here. I would recommend watching his videos, Matt's videos, right there. But then down here under Anki decks, you're going to see it says lazy kanji Anki deck. These are for Chinese down here. This one's for Japanese kanji. You're going to download that, and you're going to open that in Anki, which is quite simple. But you can see right here, I have this deck. I've already studied it today, so I can't really show you, but under settings, which once you load the deck up, it's going to have this, settings right here. You can go to options. These are my options for the day, or for the deck. I do 18 new cards a day. So every morning I review my kanji cards, and then I add in, after those reviews, I add in 18 new ones a day. It automatically brings those new ones in every morning because I have it set up this way. I would recommend doing between 10 or 20 new cards a day. 15 is probably a good amount. 10 if you think you're a slower learner, maybe something a little easier. 20 if you really are super good at remembering stuff. Either way, it's just going to be the difference between 2 months, 3 months, probably. Nothing crazy. But yeah, that's really the best way to learn, I think. So right now, you're just, when you're doing that kanji deck, you're just learning the keywords, basic meanings of those kanji to help you remember. Don't worry about the readings and how to write the kanji yet. That comes later. So after you learn all those kanji and you're done with that lazy kanji deck, you probably want to take maybe a week or two where you just take a break and you keep doing your reviews, but you take a break from adding new stuff. And then I would recommend, downloading or getting the, what's that book? It's called like Tango in 5. It's going to be the most basic sentences for learning sort of basic grammar and sentences. This book right here. But you can find all that pretty much in this website. That's sort of beyond the scope of this video, but that's kind of where you're going to learn the readings of kanji and stuff, is once you start learning sentences. But yeah, hopefully that helped you guys understand how, kanji is actually doable. It does look overwhelming at first, but once you've got hiragana and you've got katakana down, and if you're serious about Japanese, I really recommend learning kanji in this way. Alright guys, thanks for watching.